Pandemic restrictions may be loosening, but many organizations, including some local fire companies, are still feeling the pandemic pinch. Here's Lisa Sugart and West Hazleton Fire Department President and Second Assistant Chief Kyle Kashak.
How tough has it been for the West Hazleton Fire Company in this world of COVID to pay the bills because you depend on fundraisers?
Thank you for having me. Again, we've been hit at all angles by this pandemic, not only financially, but also physically and mentally. Not only were we hit by responding to calls, our call volume increased. We were tasked with doing a lot more, preparing for calls, dealing with a much greater risk on some of the calls. But then on the other side of it as well, we were hit financially when trying to raise funds for the fire company to raise money for much needed personal protective equipment to combat this pandemic and also to keep the fire company doors open during this pandemic.
You're trying to be creative and find other ways. So you have found some other ways to try to raise money.
Absolutely. We still were able to do a fund drive that we mailed out to the households in the borough of West Hazleton. And we are exploring the online raffle option with our website, again, keeping in mind the legality issues around it. We did run into some issues with the online platforms, so we did have to start from scratch, but we are every day exploring new options and becoming more and more creative to find ways to raise some money just to keep the doors and the lights on every day throughout this pandemic.
That's really tough because you've always had to raise money. You told me your call volume went up, and I'm sure that people are not like lining up outside to be volunteers. How difficult has that been as well? I know we talked about it previously, but anybody coming in to say, hey, I want to help and join?
Recruitment is slow to none in the area for volunteer services, along with retaining what members we do have. You throw in a national pandemic on top of it, where we saw some of the worst cases, especially in the Hazleton area, and it just made our jobs a whole lot tougher. So unfortunately, at this time, it's not getting any better. We always tell people our doors are always open. Come in, feel free to pick up an application, talk to us, find out what we do, and maybe it's something you could try to help us out with, because the community desperately needs you at this time. We could have all the equipment in the world, but at this point, we need the bodies to fill those boots, fill the coats of the turnout gear, put those air power packs on, and do the job that has to be done. And on the other side of it too, we also need those men and women to help us out with fundraisers and the administrative side of things. There's always different roles in the fire service, like we tell everybody, from billing incidents to fire reports to documentation, to also the more active roles of directing traffic and fire police to fighting a fire.
What's the best way to get in touch with you? How can they help?
So take some time, do a little bit of research, find out what fire company you want to be a part of, and get a hold of them one way or another, and we'd be more than happy to help you out in the application process.
Today's news feature is brought to you by Feisner's Ford in Freeland, who is celebrating 75 years in business. Give them a call at 570-636-3920, or you can log on to feisnersford.com.